Any reaction to Boeing claiming that it's lost $1.1 billion on the Air Force One contract? And more important, has the president ordered Boeing to stick with the traditional blue and white design instead of the garish red?
This is bringing me back to like my first week in this job. Yes, I appreciate it. I actually don't have any information on.
If the president does move on canceling some of the student debt, isn't that just one half of the equation, though? I mean, what is he looking at in order to keep some of these public universities from jacking up tuition prices, despite some of the federal subsidies that they've been getting? I mean, what is to stop some of these schools from just increasing tuition for the next generation of students? Isn't that half of the equation here?
I don't know if people would consider it half of the equation. I don't know. We'll let Americans define it. I would point you to the Department of Education to talk about their efforts on that front.
You said that the president is looking at a range of options with regards to canceling some student debt, but is the president looking at any options for those students and parents who saved and sacrificed so that they wouldn't have to take out such massive loans? Is he looking at including them in relief retroactively? How would they be made whole if there was some sort of canceling of debt?
You mean for people who have paid off all of their student loans?
Who made sacrifices so that they wouldn't have to take out some of those loans?
It's a good question. What I can tell you at this point is that there's legislation he'd be happy to sign for individuals who have $10,000 in existing student debt. If Congress wanted to send that to him, he'd be happy to sign it, and he's looking at executive actions and authorities. But I don't have anything to preview on that front.
Tried yesterday. You answered the first part of it. We've heard the president say over and over again that he has never spoken to his son about his business dealings. Has he ever spoken to his son's business partners about his son's business dealings?
Again, nothing has changed about what I said yesterday. The president does not get involved in the business dealings of his son.
Even through his son's business partners?
Nothing has changed since what I said yesterday.
I don't believe you answered that part of my question yesterday.
He's not involved in his son's business.
Does the president still maintain that he never spoke with his son about his business dealings? And given this reporting on Eric Schwerin, does he also say that he has never spoken to his son's business partners about his son's business dealings?
He maintains his same statements that he's made in the past. I would say, I know you're referring to Waves records that were released more than 10 years ago. I really don't have more detail or information on them. I'd note that there was a gap when Waves records were not released, but I don't have more information about visits from more than 10 years ago. Go ahead.
Mayorkas is getting a real grilling on Capitol Hill today, particularly. DHS has acknowledged that a surge would put a substantial strain on resources. Given that strain that DHS is anticipating, why should the American people have confidence that you'll be able to deal with that surge of migrants if Title 42 is lifted?
Just to note, the 6-point plan includes 6 pillars: surging resources, including personnel, transportation, medical support, enhancing CBP processing efficiency, and moving deliberate speed to mitigate.
Be very clear, and some Democrats have said this. Will the plan be in place before Title 42 is lifted?
That is exactly what the preparedness and implementation plan is intended to do.
Monthly interest payment that somebody pays when they take out a mortgage has basically doubled over the past year. You've talked about what you're doing on meat prices, but if you look at the grocery bill pretty widely, there are many categories where we're seeing double-digit inflation: flour, coffee, fruit. Is there any strategy to deal with some of these other areas where we're seeing kind of broad-based inflation?
Well, I would say the president's plan to address inflation or address causes or costs as they've gone up for the American people has many different components. Obviously, there's an important purview that the Federal Reserve has, and they've indicated their plans to recalibrate. We support that effort or steps they intend to take. And obviously, they have purview over it, and they've predicted that inflation will come down and moderate before the end of the year. And the president has taken a number of steps to address costs, even extending the pause on student loans, which is something he did just a few weeks ago.
Mayorkas detailed this 6-point plan. Part of it involves sending health care providers from the VA. He was asked about this on the Hill today. He said that it's necessary, that this interagency effort is necessary, but is it appropriate to be taking resources away from the VA to help with the surge at the border?
Again, these decisions and discussions about what resources are possible are made through the interagency process, and clearly having support and resources for our nation's veterans is a top priority to the president. But we also want to take steps we can at the border, even as we anticipate an increase in migrants coming to the border.
CBP has 23,000 agents working on the southern border right now. we're already seeing 7,000 illegal crossings a day. That is expected to surge to 18,000 when Title 42 is lifted. So how does adding 600 law enforcement officers make a dent in that?
Well, I would say, Jackie, that one of the reasons that Secretary Mayorkas is participating in the important, democratic process of testifying on the Hill is to answer the questions of exactly how the resources he's requesting and they have identified as needing to address this potential increase will help address that. So I would point you to his many hours of testimony today and tomorrow.
Reporting that Speaker Pelosi is unhappy with the way that the White House has handled Title 42 and worried that if it comes up for a vote as part of a Ukraine package, that Democrats wouldn't have the votes to defeat that. Does the White House share that concern, and what do you make of Pelosi seeming to be kind of shaky on just how close she is with the White House on this decision?
Well, I would say we're incredibly close with Speaker Pelosi, and the president has known her for many, many decades. It wasn't a decision made by the White House. It's a decision made to lift it by the CDC. The authority was given to them by Congress. And our effort and our focus is on implementation.
A number of Democrats are, speaking up about problems with Title 42. I mean, Mark Kelly was briefed by Mayorkas yesterday. He said that he still has remaining questions about how and when resources are going to hit the ground. These are Democrats saying these things. They're not wanting, Title 42 to replace an immigration effort, but they're saying that there just is not a plan in place to support what's going to happen when Title 42 goes away.
Well, there are a range of members who have strong concerns about it being lifted. Again, not a decision we make, a decision made by health and science experts. And there are many members who feel very strongly about it actually being lifted and that moving forward. This is why Secretary Mayorkas is on the Hill doing, I believe, 4 hearings, answering extensive questions from a range of members, Democratic and Republican.